Sound of Freedom. 2 thumbs up, folks. Sound of Freedom. The record-breaking box office breakout of 2023. Sound of Freedom, starring Jim Caviezel and produced by Angel Studios, the same people behind The Chosen. That's a very popular biblical series that's been doing very well. So, produced by Angel Studios. Sound of Freedom. So, this here is an article from Wikipedia. Sound of Freedom is a 2023 American action film directed and co-written by Alejandro Monteverde, starring Jim Caviezel, Mira Sorvino, and Bill Camp. Caviezel plays Tim Ballard, a former government agent who embarks on a mission to rescue children from sex traffickers in Colombia. What, 'cause fucking Soso says so? 'Cause Soso said so? I told you once a long time ago, Tony, you little monkey, don't fuck with me. Who you calling a monkey, huh? Who you calling a monkey, huh? You wanna go to war, huh? You wanna go to war? I told you once a long time ago, Tony, you little monkey. Tim Ballard, a former government agent who embarks on a mission to rescue children from sex traffickers in Colombia. It is produced by Eduardo Verastegui. Pardon my pronunciation there. Eduardo Verastegui, who also plays a role in the film. The plot centers around Ballard's Operation Underground Railroad, though some commentators have questioned its accuracy. So yeah. And in regards to Tim Ballard, the former CIA agent, former government agent, Tim Ballard, in regards to his Operation Underground Railroad, is a non-profit United States-based anti-sex trafficking organization. It has conducted multiple sting operations, some outside of the United States, and donated technological and monetary resources to law enforcement agencies that combat sex trafficking. The organization has gained popularity recently due to the release of the 2020 film Sound of Freedom, about its founder, Tim Ballard, which became a box office hit in the United States. In July 2023, Ballard left his CEO position at Our, A-U-O-U-R, Our. The organization has been criticized for its conduct during sting operations for exaggerated claims regarding its work. That's some criticism from them. Pretty much unfounded, you know. I saw Tim Ballard and Jim Caviezel on the Jordan B. Peterson podcast, the JRtheP podcast. The thing about sex traffickers is they got some kind of mental predilection in their pituitary gland that coincides with the conjunctivitis merging of the spiritual spinal column and transfigurated and transposed to the inner dimension of the anthropomorphic metaphysical floundering of the spiritual hyperical knowledge of the, like Jordan B. Peterson. Fascinating, like clinical psychologist, educator, online sensation, Jordan B. Peterson. I'm subscribed. Great content and a leader in this day and age. Matter of fact, I'm a Canadian. I'm a Canuck, eh? And I say JBP for Prime Minister. Give me a JBP and peanut butter sandwich any day of the week. You know what I mean? I say JBP for fucking Prime Minister, bud. 100%. No more of this Justin Trudeau. Hi, everyone. Hi, blackface. Hi, I steal from charities. I pretend to be gay just to get votes. Quick, everybody, quick, everybody. The truckers are coming, the truckers are coming. Quick, everybody, hide. Hide in the sewer, in the lay sewer. Everybody into the sewer. The truckers are coming, those mean old truckers. Day-o, me say day-o. Daylight come and me one go home. 6 foot, 7 foot, 8 foot bunch. Justine Trudeau, Cupcake Mimbo, Manor Legs Mimbo. You know, get him out of there. I say Jordan B. Peterson for Prime Minister. JBP. JBP and peanut butter and jelly sandwich. All day, baby. But anyways, I saw Tim Ballard and Jim Caviezel, renowned actor Jim Caviezel, Passion of the Christ, The Passion of the Christ, The Count of Monte Cristo. You know, I saw them on the Jordan B. Peterson podcast. And, you know, Tim was going into his operation and how he was a government agent. He was called by his faith. You know, people in his agency, they knew he was a man of faith. They knew he was a man of grit and moral principle. They called him up and, hey, we got this project for you. It's fighting and investigating these child sex crimes. Think you'd be up for it? He took on the challenge, and it led him down a path of like horror, and it pulled everything out of him that he had to give his all. And, you know, it was to a point in which, you know, he felt a moral obligation to continue with the work because it really tore him up inside. I mean, he had to review these horrible child sex crime videos, child sex rape videos, essentially. He had to review them, and he had to go out and conduct sting operations, talk to these pedophiles. He had to go talk to them and be around them and really get entrenched in that world. And it came to a point in which he had to make which he discussed on the Jordan Peterson podcast, how he, you know, came to a point in which for him to do his work even further, he wasn't getting the funding and the resources needed in his government job. And he had a heart-to-heart with his wife, and his wife, according to Tim says that his wife is a pillar, his rock, and she really helped him embrace that side of their faith to, as a family, go forward and allow for Tim to put everything on the line. You know, he had to quit his job, go into his own pocket and conduct these operations, and Operation Underground Railroad, him being the founder of that, right? And people criticize it, but I mean, they say that it's exaggerated, but I mean, everything that he's done up until this point has been in the media, videos, confirmation of court transcripts and all that type of stuff, like documentation. It's all there. But for whatever reason, and that's part of some of the Hollywood pushback, people are talking like these higher ups and the powers that be and these ugly, evil forces in the world are really pushing back against this film for what it could potentially represent and reveal in this society. And that's why it has taken on such that's why it's been embraced by people of faith. You know, I'm a Christian myself, and just people of faith and just people of moral character, you know, just to be a moral human being and look at this and be like, whoa, something's up, you know? And Jim Caviezel himself, one of the best actors of his generation for sure. And arguably, in my opinion, in many people's opinion, like in one of the best films ever made, The Passion of the Christ. The Passion of the Christ is undoubtedly one of the best films ever made. It's up there. You know, we talk about best films ever made. You know, it's like The Godfather, Godfather Part 2, The Passion of the Christ. It's right up there. You know what I mean? And, you know, Mel Mel's had a checkered career, but God bless him. He's just like any of us, just like me. Dip back into the episode of Johnathan Ramcharan, the podcast, episode 1. On my own humble terms, you know, I ain't no saint. So, you know, I look at some of these Mel Gibson rants. I hope you get raped by a pack of wild niggers. I don't care, man. I don't care. I love them anyway. God bless them. You know how it is, you know. People just say stuff when they're angry. But anyway, Jim Caviezel, The Passion of the Christ. One of the best films ever made. You know, he plays Tim Ballard. And as I saw them on the Jordan Peterson podcast, I heard Tim speak. That was like the first time I was hearing Tim kind of speak and learning about his message. Then you heard Jim speak, and it's like, it was like, wow, you know what I mean? Like he did a real great representation, and you know, it had me really like, oh, okay, wow, I have to go see this film. I'm hearing the message of Tim. It's being backed up by Angel Studios, starring Jim Caviezel. I'm like, wow, I have to go see this film. The message, based on a true story, fighting sex traffickers, going into that world. And I mean, like, imagine going into another country where you're the foreigner, you're an obvious target for any type of violence, any type of predator. Like, I mean, when you're an outsider in a foreign country, you're a target, especially in impoverished nations. Like, I mean, Colombia, I mean, they're a pretty poor nation, are they not? You go in there as a Guido, you go in there as a, you know, an American. I mean, you're an obvious target. So, you know, he's out there risking it in Operation Underground Railroad. So anyway, I personally get this education on Tim Ballard and what's going on with the whole project. Cool. Let me go see this film. So I get down to the movie theater, go to see the first viewing of the day. It's like 12 o'clock in the afternoon. Come sidling up next to me is like two gay men. They're in a monogamous relationship, allegedly. I guess they're a couple or something. Maybe a throuple. You know how them get down. Anyway, they come moseying up and they look at the now playing list. What's now playing? And they look and they go, oh, the Little Mermaid's playing. The Little Mermaid. The Little Mermaid's playing. These are like 50 to 60-year-old men. Gray hair, the whole thing. These are like 60-year-old, 50-year-old men. The Little Mermaid's playing. You know, as a grown man, you know, you gotta kind of... I mean, I like the Little Mermaid too, but, you know, I ain't gonna sidle up to a movie theater and, the Little Mermaid, and, you know what I mean? Like, especially when a film like Sound of Freedom, like, wouldn't you look at the poster for Sound of Freedom like, I wonder what that's about? I heard about it, like, sex trafficking and how it's a major issue in this day and age in which we live. I wonder, apparently it's based on a true story, and there's all this noble cause and a ground movement behind this film. Maybe I'll go see Sound of Freedom. No. We're going to go see The Little Mermaid. You know? Anyway, I mean, judge not lest thee be judged. You know, I am a Christian, my man. I'm a Christian myself. So anyway, I buy my ticket, Sound of Freedom. I go in. And, you know, I'm watching the film, and first of all, hey, Angel Studios, top-notch production. The film looked great. Cinematography was nice. The lighting, there was a lot of well-lit scenes. Just really a pleasing-looking film. And the action was really cool too. There was this one shot that I particularly liked. It was like a panoramic view of Colombia, and a panoramic view of Colombia, and then flying into frame was a helicopter. A chopper comes flying into frame. So that was a really cool action shot. So, cinematography wise, the film looked really great. Acting wise, all the subsidiary characters, like, the little girl, the little boy, some government agents, some Colombian law enforcement, an expat. There's this like expat, ex-drug dealer type of crime fighter as well that Tim Ballard's character befriends. I think it's Bill Camp. Actually, I might as well look it up right now. Give him some shout out. Let me see. Because this is my first kind of whiff of this actor, and he was quite stand-up performance as well. Yes, Bill Camp. Bill Camp. He plays like an expat, ex-gangster, kind of like a vigilante kind of crime fighter as well. To my knowledge, anyway. That's what I got out of it. And he did a great portrayal of a great acting performance as well. And then Jim Caviezel obviously knocks it out of the park as Tim Ballard. So the film's looking great. The acting's top notch. It's based on a true story. I'm getting into the world of it. And I can't help but keep in my mind that I am quite... It's an enjoyable experience, but I do understand how some people... It's heavy content. And there's almost a detachment you feel. It's almost like you're watching... Like... It's a very... it can be emotionally, like, you heard people, you heard, like, quiet weeping, and, you heard different emotions and rustling throughout the film. People were very drawn to it and engaged with it. I had kind of a haunted, kind of a detached feeling, because Jim Caviezel made a very good point on the Jordan Peterson podcast. He said, hey, films of historical merit, like, for example, Schindler's List. Schindler's List was a great film, but I mean, it did come like 50 years too late. It's talking about the horrors of the Holocaust 40, 50 years removed. Well, I mean, that's all well and good, but hey, it's over and done with to an extent. Whereas Sound of Freedom, they're ringing the alarm bell on an ongoing situation. As we sit, as we speak, as you view this podcast, present day, July 22nd, 2023, it's an ongoing issue in the world. Human trafficking. So, Jim made that point in a podcast. It was true. And, it had me thinking that. And that was part of that haunted, detached feeling I was getting, even though I was very much engaged in enjoying the film. I had a very kind of a detached kind of feeling, because it's like, ooh, right? Like, is this true? Is this evil true and as commonplace as, like, here's the disgusting thing. It's not just the pedophile that's the evil in the situation. All the subsidiary players that facilitate that type of evil. The people that procure and recruit and steal, basically steal the children from the parents to sell. The people who drive the vehicles, like these cargo vans loaded up with like 20 crying children, shipping them off to be sold as sex slaves. Like the people who transport the victims, the people who steal the victims, the people who I guess hold the victims captive before they get sold. The whole enterprise is just evil from stem to sternum. Makes you sick to your stomach, right? I'm just sitting there just like kind of glad I saw it. Thoroughly entertained and glad I saw it. It was an education. It was a calling of faith to like, hey, this is an issue of the times. If you can go and hear something about it and be aware and do your part, something as simple as just being willing to be engaged in this conversation. Like, hey, I know it's easy to turn a blind eye and it's an ugly thing, but hear us, listen to what's going on. This is an issue. I mean, why would I want to turn a blind eye to that? But it was. It's hard to believe when you see the scope of evil. Just like, think about it. Somebody might not be a pedophile, but they're willing to abduct a child and sell them to a pedophile? You're just as bad as the pedophile. Correct? Yes or no? Yay or nay? I mean, I don't touch children, but I do sell them. What? Strange, right? And it's a lot of evil to take in, right? So, anyway, sound of freedom. A calling for anyone of faith, a calling of anyone of conscience, a calling for anyone of film going, a film goer, someone who's engaged in filmmaking. I mean, this is a great film and an important film. A must-see film if you're a film goer. I mean, or you can go see The Little Mermaid with your little buddies if that's what you're into. But like, this is an important film for anyone to see. Anyone should see. So, thoroughly enjoyed myself. One interesting fact that they left the audience with, their fact, they say currently, at the time of the film being in theaters, human beings are more enslaved. There are more human beings enslaved at the present date, the time of the film being in theaters, than there has been even during slavery. There are more human beings enslaved today than there were during slavery. And again, that goes back to that, like this is heavy subject matter and it's hard for people to wrap their brain around. And Tim Ballard himself, he even described that process. I mean, obviously that's God bless a man like that to do that type of work. I mean, imagine doing that every day for a living, honestly. Every day you got to go into the office and figure out a way to catch a pedophile and identify victims through their sex crime videos. I mean, imagine that's your job. So God bless a guy like Tim Ballard to do that type of work. And he mentioned that. He mentioned how he went through that process. Very emotional. First time he even came across this type of material, he had mentioned on the Jordan B. Peterson Project podcast, on the JBP podcast, he saw these videos and it freaked him out, and he ran to his children's schools and he took them home, and he was just like, he held his kids close and he was just like freaked out. It like blew his mind. So like, I mean, obviously we don't have to go into that level. The average person, we're not dealing with that type of exposure. But seeing films on this subject matter and hearing this type of subject matter, it's hard for me to wrap my head around that statistic, that there are more people enslaved today than there was during slavery. And that's why it's such a significant film. I mean, it's significant because if these issues do occur and there's no reason not to believe. These things have been I don't know the word offhand here. These things have been confirmed through, like, court transcripts, media documentation. Tim Ballard, Underground Railroad, the work he's done, these things have been confirmed. So it's a very important film to see. Sound of Freedom. Hallelujah.